All right, we had so much stuff to do today, but we did it. I am so excited to talk about today's forum. It's super awesome. I texted so many people. Sorry if you got a text from me. I was just really excited. I went out and spoke with this guy earlier today, and he's a blast. He's a blast. This gentleman started in fine art. Then he had a brief pivot into the world of web, tech, and business development. After going back in the fine art world, he got a tremendous deal with a famous guitar luthier manufacturer, Gibson, to basically do what he wants and make awesome stuff. So we're going to talk all about that. He's got some stuff to show. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming James Willis and Rosabelle, who'll be interviewing. Hey, would you want to? You can sit wherever you want.
I'll
Okay.
sit here.
Hey, thanks so much, James.
Thanks. How you guys doing?
Wet? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, really. It's true.
So start us off with sort of the pitch about what you do now. If someone asked for your business card, what would it say underneath it?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think I would say that I'm a painter, postmodern impressionist cityscape painter. And the funny thing about that is I have two art dealers who also both think of me as a postmodern impressionist cityscape painter. But while all that was going on, maybe it's the farmer in me or something, but I was always building stuff. I was always editing things. Build a couple of motorcycles every year. I build 2 surfboards every year. Just always looking for things that were outside of the box. Mm. A few people collected those things over the years, but not my art dealer. And coincidentally, I traded a painting about 30 years ago to Rudy Penza in New York for a guitar, back when I didn't have any money. And about a year ago, somebody from Gibson was in Rudy's place, and they saw the painting, and they wanted to do a New York themed guitar. And so Rudy called me up and asked if I would paint one of my New York cityscapes on a Les Paul, and I said no.
Well, that's sort of an important thing. Let's talk about fine art and commercial art. How have you live in both? You have a lot of deals and a lot of work in both. What helps you distinguish them? Well,
that's been a tough question in my life, because I've had the luxury, and I've been really lucky to have a successful commercial art career. And I started that commercial art career so that I wouldn't have to compromise my fine art career. And so over the years, the way I've come to define that to myself is how many compromises I make. So, and right now, I really need a glass of water. So,
where's our stage manager? He's got it. Kevin's on it. Kevin, everybody.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, like normally I work in a room kind of by myself and just make stuff, and people throw stuff in that room constantly so that stuff will come out the door and they leave me alone. So this is a little nerve-wracking. But so where was I? So with fine art, with me, fine art just came to mean no compromises. So and then there were certain areas, like with my painting, where I just literally, I wouldn't, even when I was in the commercial world, I wouldn't paint on anything or touch paint. I'd do all kinds of other stuff, but not that. And, that's the way I define it. So when Gibson approached me about painting on a guitar, I really wanted to do it, because I play the guitar, I love the Les Paul, I love the company, but I couldn't cross that line, So eventually they asked me what I would do, and I said, I don't know, send me a guitar. They sent me a guitar. It sat around my studio for a while, and then instead of turning it into the New York themed guitar that they wanted, I turned it into a musket.
Happens to all of us, sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But so at that point, I realized that I could do it. That I was inspired by working on the guitars, and so I called them and I said, I'll do it. I'll work on a guitar. I won't do a painting per se on it, but you got to send me another guitar because I turned the first one into a musket. And I included a powder horn with it and some other stuff, and I handmade the leather straps that went with it, and I remade the metal parts. I took all the plastic off and replaced it with bone and scrimshawed it. So it was kind of trippy. And Yeah, and so then what happened was Gibson right away, there was a lot of interest in it, and you know, they asked me if I wanted a job, and I said that I didn't, and that led to the idea of an artist in residency, and that's kind of where we've been for the last few months. So I'm the first ever artist in residence at Gibson. I have a beautiful studio. I just kind of make whatever I want to, and but I also keep a workstation at the Gibson custom shop so that, you know, there's that connection between my paintings, which these are the last two. I just took them off the wall at my studio. These are in the neighborhood of my studio. And I'm trying to finish, guys, but it's hard for me to talk right now because I'm so incredibly thirsty.
Kevin, wherever you are, Kevin.
Yeah, yeah. It's all that salty food I've been eating for the last few days. Sorry. So I have this idea that what the guys at Gibson are doing and what I was doing as a painter and a fine artist really aren't different. It's just that the guys at the Gibson factory forgot that. So like, when I'm in there now working with these guys and they're sanding a guitar or they're, you know, doing these kind of tasks that I think they think of as menial, I look at it like they're making this beautiful piece of sculpture. And so by my being there, I think maybe everybody's starting to think of it that way.
And how is that deal between you and Gibson structured? Like, do you own the art you create?
Well, you know, because, again, see, there's something to be said for the luxury of not having to do something. And you guys don't have that luxury right now. But I think if you ever want to really know what it feels like to do what you want to do, pretend like when you go to meet the person you want to do it for, let them get a sense that you don't have to do it, and they're going to go nuts to have you do it. So, and the great thing about me is that Gibson knows that I don't have to do it. I'm doing it because I want to do it, and as a consequence of that, they want me. We both want each other, and it makes for this great thing. So the way that I'm working with them right now is I'm doing 6-month stints. So I'm kind of redoing my contract with each 6 months. I have a great lawyer. I'm not proud of that fact, but I have used them in the past. And so you just got to, from the beginning of these things, you got to kind of put your heart aside for a second and define what you're going to do and set some parameters. And so right now I have a 6-month contract where, without getting into the too many details, we both own what I'm doing. So right now, for everything I make for them, I can make one for myself. And then there are other things too built into it, but that's kind of the gist of it. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
I could probably go on, but again, I'm not kidding. Carson, I might have to get you to run out to the Jeep and get me a jug of water. Look at that. See?
Look at that.
Yeah.
Clutch.
Yeah.
Clutch.
That's, yeah.
Haven't let us down.
There's a lesson there. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenwood.
That's better. Yeah. Yeah. And so, again, just like, look, my whole career has been like really kind of unusual, but I've always followed my heart. And when it comes to the business part of it, if you can find a way to mix those two things together, it's great. And you have to do that. You really have to think about it, what I'm doing with Gibson right now with creating this artist in residence program is as I move on, we're going to be bringing new artists in. I've already tapped into 2 different artists, and there are already some things that have happened from the way that these guitars are manufactured that they weren't doing before, and that stemmed from my not knowing that I couldn't do it. So I tried to do it, and but that's what having an artist in residence, I think, should be about.
Well, let's sort of break that down here. I mean, one of the as you said, one of the things you've done is sort of help Gibson realize that anyone can make a factory that puts out great guitars, but there's an American art that goes along with this, and you've gotten some other artists involved, as in building sustainability for other visual artists. Do you want this to be something where companies such as Gibson, realize that there's a stake in the visual art world. They have a reason to keep hiring and to keep promoting the visual art world.
Well, it's the advantage. And Henry, who runs Gibson, you either love him or hate him. He's like Elvis Costello. And I mean, I love him, and I've seen what he's doing behind the scenes. When you strip away the veil of like what's out there, it can really be kind of scary. And here's a guy who's trying to make these guitars in America, by hand, and the guy really did care about the way the wood was being managed and all these other kind of things, and he's just having his brains kicked out right now. The advantage that an American company has that maybe even he had lost sight of a little bit is that so you've got Gibson USA that manufactures by hand guitars that pretty much look like this at Gibson USA and at Gibson Custom. So in other words, it's kind of like they're kind of the same level when they're like this. A lot of CNC work, some of it's been done by hand. But once this guitar, if this guitar was in the custom shop, it would start to be managed like on a much more sort of fine level. Yeah, bring it on. Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. All right. So
Thanks, Kevin.
So the difference was it used to be that Gibson USA. Thanks for the
we're
water.
gonna clap for Kevin.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but the more I drink, the looser I get. See? Yeah. There you go. That's right. Pretty soon I won't even remember you guys are out there. I already can't hear you. So yeah. So anyway, you got the factory and then the custom shop. And what the custom shop used to be, 50, 60 years ago was when Elvis Presley wanted a certain kind of wood or a certain kind of top on a guitar. It would go to the custom shop where they had like the big gun luthiers sitting there working, or they had the guitar designers, thinking about it. And over time, the custom shop in some ways had started to lose that idea of new stuff. Henry's pushing new technology, which is great, but actual hands-on production, it was harder for him to keep an artist and that energy going there. So now what I'm trying to do, and I think not just me, but a bunch of other people, are trying to reintroduce the randomness of an artist being around who doesn't necessarily understand the process that's going on, but sees it from just the passionate side. Mm-hmm. And so then hopefully those two things, can meet up, and it's going to start to it'll make some new guitars. It makes the guys in the back of the shop who are building these things, I talk to them like they're an artist just like me. I have my table back there, and I'm trying to remind them that what they're doing is art as well.
So it's funny you say that because you can wear so many more hats than just the artist, and they inform each other. So how does your business experience make you more valuable in the artist role? Well,
that's so I think when we were talking earlier today, when I was trying to think of that, and I was trying to think of myself and how I've moved through the different things that I've done, because when I go down the list, it's hard for me to even keep track of them. But it kind of came to me that if you're an architect and you're working on a building and you run out of bricks, you can change and start using a different material. If you're a bricklayer and you're working on a building and you run out of bricks, you're screwed. So I kind of try to move through all these things. Even when I come into if it's a specific job, I try to look at, how can I make myself the architect of this role so that, I'm kind of building my own systems in so that I'm going to make what I'm doing for the person that's hired me more valuable, and also make it a little bit more mysterious so that they feel like that they couldn't just replace me with somebody. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, absolutely. You said one of the things you do is with your camera. No one told you what to do, but because you know.
Yeah. So I have to be careful to. It's tough, and in a way, I'm like letting a little bit of the curtain down with you guys because, call yourself a fine artist, and you really open yourself up to taking a whooping, you know, because everybody wants to like take that away from you, especially if you're an artist who's made some money, you know. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, but you just kind of generate some weirdness. So when I'm at Gibson and they introduce me to somebody, I'm an artist, and that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about making paintings. I'm thinking about how the guitars are affecting my paintings and how my paintings are affecting the guitars. When I'm talking to the guys at Gibson, I'm thinking about these things, but I'm also thinking about how I can make that valuable to them. So I photograph everything I do. I write about it. You know, I speak the party line when I can, if I believe it. If I don't believe it, I don't say anything about it. And so on one hand, they see me as this artist. On the other hand, their web guy knows that I'm generating, like, content, and he's not asking for it. And so I think what that means is when you find yourself in a situation where you're getting an opportunity to do what you love, make sure that you pay attention to the aspects of it that you don't love, and you think about it, you know, you think about it beyond what you're doing and what you're getting out of it, and try to like find ways to make it more valuable to the people that you're doing it for.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah. So there. Yeah.
Well, so other than your business experience, your experience as an artist, how else have you made yourself like indispensable to Gibson? Like how have you kept
I haven't made
this?
myself indispensable to Gibson.
And you don't.
Okay,
With the,
You don't want.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I've tried to instead of coming in and say, hey, you know what, I'm a fine artist, man, let me make some guitars and let's sell them for a bunch of money. I came in and said, hey, you know what, I'm a fine artist, and I've got young people in my life who are also artists, and I'm looking at the world that I've worked in. I've owned and sold 4 businesses. And I know that the jobs out there aren't that easy to get. The big corporations that are left in the world, you know, there's no like, hey, work here for 30 years and retire kind of thing. I mean, it's a scary thing. So, you know, as a working artist, I'm also thinking of ways that I can sort of reinvent a situation to where a young artist can come into the Gibson under this artist in residency program and just instantly make what they're thinking, do what they want to do. There's nobody at Gibson who's like trying to quantify that, you know, so that gives them some freedom because what they're doing is the product, not what they're making. Just by doing it, they are the product.
that's where the value is.
Yeah, and so that frees them up to do whatever they want to. And hopefully that would offer opportunities for a young person, and it's not an intern. Internships are great, and I've used interns, and in fact, one of my interns became an art director at one of my companies. But this is different. This is not saying, hey, come here and learn something from us, or hey, come here and maybe one day you'll be good enough to do this. This is saying, come in here and do what you love.
Art first.
And maybe there's a chance that when you're doing what you love, you're going to see something we're doing, and it's going to inspire you to try to do that. Or maybe we're going to see what you're doing, and it's going to inspire us to, you know, to do something.
You know, you have an example here about helping other artists besides just future residence artists. A strap that became a Gibson product.
Yeah, well, I can show you. So, like, you know, kind of jumping back a little bit, when I would, so I get like kind of distracted sometimes, you know. So while I'd be painting, you know, I'd get an idea that, you know, I want to do something else, and then I'd pursue it. So Carson knows this from firsthand experience. Case in point, a few years back, I had one of my New York City cityscape paintings on the cover of Art and Antiques. And my wife was excited about it. My art dealer was excited about it, and I stopped painting for a year and built a motorcycle.
The business doesn't always follow.
I didn't mean to build a motorcycle. It's just that I'd been working on my own motorcycle. Every time I'd crash it, instead of paying to fix it, I'd just build a part there in my studio. And one day, somebody that was buying my paintings came over and said, hey, build me a motorcycle. And I was like, I don't know how to build a motorcycle. And then she delivered a motorcycle over with a credit card and said, I'll see you in 6 months. And I built a motorcycle. Yeah, but while I was doing that, you know, so first I started out, well, how am I going to paint this thing? And then I started working with the metal and then the leather. And this is all getting back to the guitar. So I started making these motorcycle seats. And then I started tooling the leather like it was a drawing instead of a paint, like normal stuff. And I'm gonna sidetrack just a little.
Sure.
There's another thing I got to tell you guys. When you go into a world where somebody has just spent 20 years of their life learning how to tool leather, and they know every tool and every stroke and every pattern, and they're very meticulous about it, and you show them what you did, and you say, yeah, I just learned this yesterday and I did it with a screwdriver, they will hate you. So be prepared for that. And then show them great respect and understand that you're lucky because you're not just doing one thing, but you got to show that person respect, and you got to give it up to them. And because, if you don't, they're going to cause you some grief. And so that's true with everything. But anyway, so all these things I was doing with the motorcycle, it was too much. In fact, I'd get warnings because I'd have at some point my studio was pretty much a garage. And so I kind of thought, wow, that's too much. And so I jumped back into the painting and was kind of taking a little break from the motorcycle building. And well, help, I crashed one pretty bad. So I took a little break. And that's when this guitar thing came along. And oddly enough, I think I mentioned to you earlier, even though everybody wants to put you in a box. They can't help it, They can't help it. So the people who were selling my artwork wanted to think of me as a painter who studied with David LaFell at Art Students League for 2 years, and I was a painter, old-fashioned painter. They don't care that I did all the packaging for Marvel Comics and Spider-Man, and that Haynes was my biggest .com client. They can't put those two worlds together. So when you're when you're trying not to be in that box, it's not easy. And what happened was so basically I put my paintings forward, and the motorcycles and the surfboards and the sculpture and the metalwork and the leatherwork was just my personal stuff. And oddly enough, with the guitar, they all merged. And that's when some of the people who'd been collecting that other stuff of mine, who also didn't think it made sense, but they still collected it, they saw the guitar and they were like, wow, this is weird, man. So the second guitar I did for Gibson has carving on it. It has experimental finish on it. It has a leather strap that I made, and it comes with a painting. So it's not painted on it, but it comes with it. The leather strap that I made, I went out and I found this guy in Atlanta who was doing this heavy-duty stitching. I had him stitch my strap up. And so now each one of my guitars comes with a custom strap that I hand tool, he stitches, and Gibson sells...
Oh, watch out. Close save.
I knew it would happen eventually. So now Gibson is going to they're not even going to sell this. They're going to offer it to the guys who come for custom fit guitar. And it's just a handmade guitar strap that it's built the same way as mine was. It's just not hand tooled. And so that's outside of the program. So this is mine for the SG that's here that's tooled. But it doesn't have the backing yet. Yeah. So.
And now this artist is
going to
found a sustainable way.
He's going to make them, yeah. I've also just done that when they make these guitars. They, especially the Les Paul, you can see this is a piece of mahogany and this is curly maple, and they make this sandwich. And then after it's dry, they cut this shape out of a square. So this piece and this piece are these really cool looking chunks of trash. And so I was looking for something to do with those, and I found a guy who turns wood. He makes bowls, but instead of turning and stopping at the bowl, he goes all the way up. So he makes these giant bowls with a hole this big in them. He sits there like a little tool, and scrapes them out. So anyway, I found this guy, and so what he's done is he's taken some of these scraps and he hand-turned these beautiful little wine stoppers. And they're amazing looking, and they're heavy, and they look cool, and they're made from the body of a Les Paul. And people are going nuts over them.
That's cool.
And so now this artist is making these things. They're not being manufactured in a mass mass kind of way. So they're coming through this art program that, that Gibson has put together.
You said earlier that there's one always informs the other. And I'd like to, if it's all right, I'd like to sort of show off some of the fine art stuff we've done here.
Yeah.
Rosabelle, could you help showcase this?
Well, this is I don't know if any of you guys ever watch American Pickers by any chance? Their Nashville studio is right across the street from my Nashville painting studio. So it's kind of cool that I've gotten to know those guys. They're pretty nice. And actually, you know who Jack White is, right? I just acquired his laser pistol.
Jack White has a laser pistol?
Not anymore. Yeah. I have it. So anyway, the paintings I'm kind of known for in New York tend to be that like wedge of sky, that are in the buildings. And I grew up 45 miles from a movie theater in South Georgia. So I went to New York City for the weekend to see this girl, and I stayed for 30 years. And that's one of my little babies sitting right out there in the audience.
Aww.
Oh, represent West Side, baby. Okay, but anyway, I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know what I was going to see in Nashville, if anything, because I'm walking around and I'm looking, for what to paint, and I'm busy with the guitars. I had like 5 guitars going. And then eventually, this is a neighborhood around my building. I started painting these sort of from the rooftop up paintings. And I just realized today that I'm kind of painting guitar necks. And I don't think I really even had connected that until I saw them today. And I just took these right off the wall. These are like the things that I'm working on right now. So those are the paintings that I'm working on right now.
Did you want to talk about this one a little bit?
So, it's the same idea, I mean, I did that one before this one, but it's just, it's new territory for me. And my philosophy with painting is same with, everything else. I mean, I'm a good draftsman. I could draw that and paint it much more nicely. But, it's like I would have written you a shorter letter if I'd had more time. I can't remember who said that, but he was really a big shot. But that's the way I look at it. So, I like to keep things rough and raw. And I think, having said that, I could jump from this over to the guitar. 'Cause let me show you guys. So this is a guitar I'm working on right now where I've spec'd it out. This is one of 3 guitars I'm doing based on short stories by Edgar Allan Poe. So that one's going to be Edgar. And this is... by
the way, these are the custom shop. These are your guitars that you've worked on, what we're looking at here.
These are, what's going to happen is if I decide that I like this guitar and there are things about it that I still don't, I'll probably wind up keeping this guitar and then I'll make another guitar that meets the things that I'm learning with this one.
I see.
And that's the one that Gibson will have.
So this is like fresh off of, this has not been reproduced, this has not been...
No. Yeah, no. And they won't ever be reproduced. They're just one-off kind of things. How are we doing? Am I talking too much? Are we cool?
We have a little time
Y'all
left,
ready
right?
to go? Everybody hungry? So this is Mask of Red Death, SG. And then, But then, so what I try to do is when I'm doing these kind of things, I'll like try to hide
Could you reassure the people over there?
Yeah.
And then I'll switch to the back.
Oh, and by the way, just so you guys know, that's the first thing I ever carved. And it made the guy who works in the wood shop hate me, and we worked it out, but it was ugly for a while. So he's like, "Yes, but the scroll is mathematical." I was like, "No, it's not." You're busting my chops because I can't make a table leg. Back down. So, and you know what though? Seriously, because I can't make a table leg. I can't spend 20 years of my life learning how to do what he's doing. So I have to kind of keep it loose. So anyway, this is the Mask of Red Death SG, and you see on the back there's a little secret between the guy that owns the guitar and the guitar. So I like the idea that it's secret. And these things are all this hardware was remade just for me by a guy that does hot rod parts in Nashville, and it's all bronze. So right down to every screw. And so now while I'm doing that, in order to kind of keep it real, I make guitars out of random things. So this is, I call this a Super 817 because that's what was written on the box, and I think it was a gift to the superintendent of my building at 817 West End Avenue. But there's a lot of force on this mandolin neck, and I wouldn't let them show it if it wouldn't play. And it was pulling the butt piece off because of the way I just glued it together. And I didn't want to fix it, but I wanted them to show it. They wanted to show it in California. So I rigged it up so it'll play one song, Stairway to Heaven. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Just in case you find yourself in Sam Ash, you can dust off. Yeah, that's that. Yeah. This is, this is funny. All these guitars I make, I've got video of Peter Frampton playing this, Ace Frehley playing this. This is a Frankly My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn ditty bow. And so this doesn't vibrate, so I had to build this little amp for it.
And why doesn't it vibrate?
Well, because, the skull.
It's a skull of a.
It's a deer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a deer skull on the guitar.
But if you don't have your amp and you don't have batteries, all you hearing test people, check this out. I built this little wooden frame for it, and if you put this behind your ear, when you play it with a glass slide, I can hear it in my own skull. So I can practice it that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's called Frankly My Dear?
Frankly My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn.
Right.
And this is the amp cigar box.
So cool.
And that thing's got some great tone. So I think, you know what, while I'm doing this, I want to show the New York one real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about this one for a minute.
Yeah,
here.
This was the one that I was originally supposed to do, that I did the musket guitar first, but now I can't even take the musket guitar anywhere without an armed guard because I think somebody in, it's gotten too expensive. So this is my prototype case. So like this one, there's a finished version of this that Gibson has, and this is mine. But whenever I do this stuff and I'm experimenting with using different metals and finishes, I'll make notes to myself and I can see how it's scratching and stuff. So this is the New York City special. So
wow.
Sick, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right. So and you see that, but do you see the the contrast of if you start taking yourself too seriously, you got to remember at the end of the day, if I had to pick one of these, I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Because this won't happen again. This might. But so, and this is cool because this is everything, I redid all the hardware with copper. So it's going to age. This is wood instead of plastic. It's carved out of a piece of wood. So is this. So you see the little skyline with the water tower.
Wow.
And then stars on the neck. And this will all patina. So, and this guitar comes with a painting of New York City. So, and that's what started it.
Awesome.
And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes left. Do we have any questions for James? Come up to the microphone, quickly. Keenan.
And if somebody's going to ask me why I have the right to carve on a guitar, I'm just going to tell you it's because I want to, so don't even ask.
What's it called? Have you ever thought of opening it up and having Gibson kind of send some of those prototypes, just like the regular body no finish, to people, and having artists kind of, either buy or doing it like a contest thing, so that other artists who might not have a chance of meeting you or something.
They do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and they tend to do them with the Epiphones instead of the Epiphone is like a brand, that's like Gibson's more affordable brand. Again, my issue with that a little bit is that you have to, there are no checks and balances. So it's like I'll tell people sometimes, if you take my painting and I've been working on painting for 40 years, and you put it next to a kid's painting who's 7 years old, sometimes the kid's painting is going to pull my painting down. That's not going to be a $10,000 painting anymore. It's going to seem ridiculous because the 7-year-old's painting is just as good. So you have to be careful, to try to. I really want to try to manage the integrity of this thing. I'm not saying that I don't think everybody should have a chance to try, what I am saying is that I'd like to see like a level of commitment that kind of goes beyond just, if you get a guitar in the mail and you just have to think about painting it or editing it or something like that, I don't think that you're really establishing the connection that I'm trying to get you to have with what we're doing. So I do think that they do what you're saying, and I'm hoping that you're digging a little deeper than that. If that answers your question.
Next question.
How much do you sell them for with the package, with the painting and the guitar?
Well, there's only one at this point. There's no.
Yeah.
How much are you gonna be planning on selling them
You
for?
know, I know that $75,000 has been turned down for the water tower guitar. Yeah. So if you're gonna mug me, today's the day. Yeah.
Any other questions for James? Well, thank you very much for James Willis for coming and talking to us today. That was awesome.
Thank you very much. Thanks.